So as you have probably seen, I've been really trying to work on this South Harbor section. And it's very exciting because the layout at this point is, all of the bench work should pretty much be done at this point. So to see it all come together is very rewarding. This is my first layout that I have ever done, very first thing of this type that I've ever built. So to be able to start to see it form and come into being is incredibly rewarding. And so what I'm doing here is cutting it into strips that will work as the roadbed. And for the cost, this solution is, well, what did I math that out to be? About a quarter of the, no, less than that. It's like an eighth of the cost. So for 8 squares, it was pretty much $18. Which means that 8 squares, for my purposes, should cover at least 60 foot of track. So if you want to compare that 20 bucks compared to 160, that's a good chunk of change right there. So this was the route that I decided to take with this. It's been a bit of a learning curve, but not too bad. The width of this. So this is 1 3/4 inch, which is just about the right size for HO track, which I'm doing On30, which uses HO track. So you could do HO or O scale roadbed, up to you. Because of how I'm doing this, and partly because I don't want to, I'm cutting this into what would be the full width of the track, not into half, and just doing straight sections. And then on curved sections, I'm just going to cut it to the shape that I want. What I have noticed is that I'm not always the most exact with my cutting. So when I mark these, what I'm doing here is I'm marking the centers of the roadbed, so that when I lay it down, I can line it up with the drawn part on the plywood. It's a good, easy way to get those nice roadbed pieces. And here, I'll show you this on the screen. But the particular section that we're working with right now is over in South Harbor. And I've got almost all of the straight parts put down. I need to still do this curve here, and that's kind of the biggest section. And eventually I'll figure out that over there in the corner there's going to be a turntable, that's what that's called. A turntable off there in the corner. So I need to do this curved section, and eventually I need to work on the connection down there on the other side of the drop down. But once I get this done, and you'll notice there's a section of roadbed missing, there's a reason for that. This is going to be where the car float goes. I probably actually want to chop these in half, just so that I can get a little bit better mileage on this. Now, if you want to do it all in one section, don't do it this way. because there's going to be a good amount of cutting involved with this. This in chunks around the corner. I actually think I have a scrap that's going to fit better than that. I did. So, if you look over here, this curve is done in these 3 parts here. And if I was very much a perfectionist, I would probably trim this to make it nice and smooth. And that's what I did over there. However, if I do that, these are going to be such small trimmings to try and glue back in on this other side. It's just going to be more hassle than it's worth. And that's okay. Because in reality, what your cork roadbed is doing, at least to my knowledge, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. To my knowledge, what the cork roadbed does is it's a sound dampener. So that when your train's running over the plywood, it doesn't have that rattling sound. That drives all of us insane. You get the same thing on like plastic track too, if it's, you know, on a hardwood floor. But that's okay. So, because this will still fulfill its purpose of sound dampening, and it'll still give a little bit of a raise. And what'll happen is, you know, when we put the actual ballast down, we'll just form the ballast and stuff to kind of give us that curve. This is a yard anyway. It's going to be messy. It's not going to be flawless. So it'll be just fine. It'll be just fine. Now I've got to get my glue. So I kind of dash out where each piece is going to end. I'll only glue that section. And just press it into the glue. And now it doesn't take much glue. You really don't need all that much. And so I'm pulling pins out of what I put down last night. Glue is dry, so they don't need these thumbtacks anymore. Push pins, whatever you want to call them. Here, I'm actually going to change y'all's angle so that you can see without my hand being in the way. Doesn't take much glue. I probably put down more than I need to even. But what I like is that in the end, I don't have a whole lot oozing out the sides. If you want to clean that up, you can. I just take a little corner strap and just press it up. And then as you can see right here, what we're actually dealing with here is a little bit of a gap, which isn't going to be the end of the world, especially if you don't mind your ballast just kind of filling it, which I don't. So I'll just leave that gap. Nice part about the wood glue, it does set up fairly quick. And alright, that's not too bad. A couple corners that can get cleaned up, but really though, that's not that bad. Alright. Good, so we got two more. How many do we think we're going to need? two more than what I got. Okay. That off a little short. That's okay. We'll deal with that in a second. What's that Bob Ross thing? Happy accidents. Yep. No such thing as mistakes. Just happy accidents. Well, trust me, there are mistakes. I've made a good amount of them on this. This is my first layout I have ever done. This part has gone relatively fast. I've only been working on this for 6 months now, or almost 7 now. And that's all fine and dandy, but reasonably, in order to get this like finished with scenery, there's probably another 20 years before this is finished. I was doing the math, and I think it's somewhere close to 300 square foot of scenery. That's going to be a lot of scenery. Dandy. All right. So, I did forget to do one thing. Because I do plan on using switch motors. I need to cut out and drill out this section so that I can have the switch motor drop in. Or mounted under, I suppose, is what I'm actually trying to say here. So I'm just going to take it, using a little marker, mark that up. Doesn't need to be the whole thing. Take my X-Acto. Just gash that up some. We're just going to take this and carefully try and pluck it out. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just good enough to kind of give you an idea. And then we're going to take our drill. And we probably need a 1/4 inch bit. Yes, I do. Yeah, it's not a terribly exact science. And that should be all good to go. Alright. I'm going to just kind of mark the ends here, where this is going to go. And I almost forgot this again. We're going to prep this switch for installation here. This is again an Atlas switch, and it comes with, I've heard them referred to as derails. Sorry, down here, and it's supposed to make them easy to join together. And then, you know, theoretically you don't have to put in replacement ties. I usually think that those look kind of gross though when I've seen them in ballast, because you'll see these vertical connectors. So what we're going to do to help kind of improve the look of these is we're just going to chop off that last tie on each of those ends. Okay? All you just need is a razor saw. And it doesn't take very much, just some gentle pressure on the line. I find that it's easiest just to not try and go back and forth. If you want to, you can. One direction works just fine. Yeah, and that's all that takes. See, I think that looks a lot better. I use liquid nails for my track adhesive. I have had real good luck with this. It works really well. And the best part is that it kind of immediately has a nice tacky texture that'll hold the track in place. Now if you'll see, I have a problem because I accidentally split the bead on this one. You don't need a whole lot. You don't want it to be very high, otherwise you have that interfering with things. You'll also see here, I am not putting any on the far side of the turnout point because I don't want this to get mixed up with any of our point or the moving parts of the switch. Turnout, sorry. You just kind of spread that around, get it nice and even, and line it up. Drop it in. Try to not get it on your fingers. It will get on the track and you will have to clean it off. And then as much as it does have a tacky consistency, which does great for holding it down, I like to just put in push pins to keep it consistent and so that it doesn't move around. Okay. Alright. Now I get to the fun part. We got there sooner than I had intended because this next next section is going to take us into where this crossover needs to be. So, one moment while I get the switches. Let's get these cleaned up. Well, I've got the turnouts cleaned up, and I found a scrap of flex that I can get into position here. And so here's what we're doing here is we're putting this together because this has to go this way. The flex can adapt, right? I can make that longer or shorter as needed, but these really just have to sit right. And that's the other thing. Don't rush your track laying. If you're thinking about starting a layout, do not rush your track laying. Good track is a must. If your track laying is not good, then your trains aren't going to run good. So your track must be done right. There we go. This will go right here. And so this makes this section kind of a runaround track, which is good. There's a turntable in the back there, so any locomotives that need to turn around will do so back there. And then this is the tracks for the harbor. And this is also going to be our station track. This track right here will be our station track. There we go. That's roughly it. Yeah, that'll work. Alright. Now to cut this. So that means I can probably finish that up over there, and that's probably about as far as I can get. I'm gonna need more because I got a project over on the other end of the layout. changing track yards over there. I'm still debating about changing a yard over here in the middle. So we'll see. I'm real close to being done with most of it, so I don't want to have to order more if I don't have to. Order it and then it's just like taunting you to use it. Well, then you have to come up with another project one day. All right, well we're gonna head over here and we're gonna try and get that last piece of tracking made. Alrighty. So here's the situation. An uncut foot, a 3-foot flex, will bridge this gap and go all the way up here. Now, so it does bridge this gap, and I don't have the ability to change this right now. So we're going to leave this actually. We're not going to hook this up. So I think at this point we can continue with some wiring work. Yeah, good. All right. Welcome to Underneath the Oak Harbor Line. So, what I have here is an insulated staple, and this is what I have chosen to hold my under layout wires. My bus wire is secured with this all the way through the whole layout. They're pretty easy to work with because you tack them in here and you can just thread the wires through and it works great. Now, this is going to take some doing and some engineering. So the drop down section, I don't want to mess with electrical connections, but it needs feeder wires to it. So here's how this works in my brain, and it should work, though if it doesn't, you're going to find out here in a second. So the wire I'm going to run along the wall so that it's underneath the panel and it's not going to be affected by the drop down section. The drop down section can drop completely and that wire is not going to be affected. The bus wire is what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to run it along the wall over to this section, and then we're going to hop up underneath of this section as we go through. So we're going to do this all the way over there, and then we're going to tack it up onto the bottom of that section. So hang on a second, we're going to move. We just got a couple more we got to put in, and they're on the other side, so let's head on over there. So with feeder wire, it's really advisable. You don't want your rail joiners being what you're relying on for your power. So every piece of flex should have at least a set of feeders on it. My feeder wire is 18 gauge wire, 18 gauge solid, actually. And so what I'm using here is a 3/32, I believe, drill bit to make the holes, which is a little tight for the wire, but it helps hold it in place as you solder. Just taking off about a 1/4 inch of the installation so that I have enough contact, or enough space, I guess, for my joint. That's all. Now there's a bunch of different ways that you can attach these. So this just happens to be the way that I have found it the best. I make, there you go, a little hook in the wire. And then, right here, just drop it down through your hole. Make sure before you get too far that you have the right color on the right rail, because otherwise you're going to have to go back and fix it. And red should be the side closest to where I'm at. Push it down, and then I like to elbow mine just a little bit so that it pushes nice and snug up against the rail there. Coming in at a 90-degree angle, and you just kind of snug that down. Alright. So what I am using here is 60/40 rosin center solder here. Soldering is new to me. I had never soldered before, so sometimes I'm not always that good at it either. And when I started, I was using a soldering gun that was probably close to 60 years old. See, that looks about ready. So I try and aim towards the top of the joint with that, and then just take the end of the solder and put it right about next to it, and it's going to take a second. Hold and let it actually warm up. Allow that rosin to flow and make a nice joint. Get a nice bell-shaped, flare-shaped joint. That'll be good.
So what I got here are these suitcase connectors, and they call them that because, you know, they kind of close like a suitcase. You might also see them online. What I purchased these under, they're called quick splices, and they're real nice because I don't have to be messing around trying to solder wires over my head. So this works real nice, and it's really easy to do. So that's how we're going to connect these feeder drops to the bus wire here.